you talked about theatre, how it increased your confidence. Your mom, I remember reading in the book, your mom would like you to go back to theatre. Any thoughts there? Would you ever?
No. No, I think, no, I don't think there's any thoughts of going back to theatre right now, because I think that was a great cycle in my life. And I think it's, again, very committed, because then you need to be around. And right now, I think I'm a little overcommitted. I thought I was going to work less than when I was in media and entertainment. Right now, I'm finding myself doing more. And it's a huge commitment.
So, cable TV, toothbrushes, media, movie studio, sports leagues, education, philanthropy, that's a mind-boggling array. And you couldn't probably have had domain expertise in all of these. Sometimes you would have felt like an outsider. And I remember from the chapter titled Outsider in your book, you speak about how in the early days of UTV, early Bollywood days of UTV, you were trying to form an alliance with an established player. And one after the other, it was a slew of rejections, whether it was ABCL, Yash Raj, Sony, Fox. And you're right that some of them told you you were an outsider and some of them made you feel like one. So how was that experience and how did you work around it? And also, now that you've entered new domains, how important you think domain expertise is, just related to that?
So I guess a Friday night is not complete unless we can give some Bollywood anecdotes. Even though there isn't unless there's a big movie releasing, so I think Salman Khan almost released his own movie again last night, yesterday, in more headlines, but notwithstanding that. Yeah, I think in many cases, I mean, let's take the movie studio. I think when we got, there was a time in which, when we started our media company, we were a B2B company. And I think we got listed, and in about 3 investor calls of 3 quarters, I realized that we were not going to really do very well, because as a B2B business, you're not in control of your own destiny, and you need to be in control of your own destiny. And we needed to actually pivot and become a B2C company. I was driven by the fact that scale was very important, and I wanted to build a brand. And there's no way you can build a brand unless you're touching the consumer directly, and you're touching the consumer in multiple ways. And therefore, we pivoted from being just a production company for television and a production company for airline in-flight programming and a post-production studio and producing ads and producing documentaries to starting 10 broadcasting channels, starting a movie studio, starting a game and an animation studio, becoming a media conglomerate. And that took 18 months while we were trying to reduce everything else we were doing. And it is true that I think for most people, when we decided we wanted to be in the movie business, they all glared at us, because here's the South Mumbai Parsi gentleman. So everyone kind of looked at you and says, are you going to be able to read Hindi? If you give a narration, will you be able to understand it? In this very raised eyebrow look. So yes, I think we were outsiders for a long period of time. I think our first 5 movies were a complete disaster. Absolute and total disaster. The first movie we made, I don't think anyone have heard about it. It was called Dil Ke Jharoke Mein, which I wanted to actually put in the cupboard and not release it ever. But I guess from a financial and fiscal point of view, we needed to go out there and take the write-off, as would anybody else. And we had a director, it was an absolute disaster. And so were the next 3 or 4 movies. Now normally, if you've said that kind of public failure, and please understand that, as you can all see, a Friday night failure is very public, much more public than most things. And if you face that regularly, for most people, you would just run. And you would consider that to be a failure and not a setback. And I think what got me going at that stage was the conviction that I don't have a choice. I'm committed that I want to build a brand. I'm committed that I want to build a company at scale. I'm committed, therefore, that the only way we could do that is to be on the big screen, the small screen, and the mini screen. And that was pretty much the way we wanted to go. And I would say that for the next 3 or 4 years, we had a very rough time as far as that goes. And I know that my CFO walked in one day and said, look, I know you want to do this B2C thing as far as we're concerned with movie business, but please let's get a partner and hedge our bets, because this is really not going to work. And I could see that he was making complete sense in that thought process. And so I was not really convinced about it, but I think I understood that there seemed to be a lot of financial pressure across the board. So I went across and anecdotally went across to meet Mr. Yash Chopra at that stage, and I was thinking while I was driving to Andheri as to what am I going to tell him as to why, with his incredible amount of success, would he need to tie up with, at that stage, a fledgling studio called UTV. And we had an incredible conversation because Yashji, as always, was an extremely charming person. Like 90% of the movie industry, they never say no. You know, it's always, but you never know whether you can collect a no in that context. So every time I bring up the topic of why we think internationally and we can bring a lot of distribution, and at that stage, Murdoch had invested into our company and what we can do. He'd then talk about Switzerland, he'd talk about Australia, he'd talk about location. I think after about 4 such things, I kind of gave up and decided, I guess his polite way of telling me no in the conversation was that. The next stop was ABCL. Mr. Bachchan had just launched that. Uday Kotak had backed him and he was trying to make his debut in the whole media industry. And therefore, I thought maybe as a movie studio, we could go there. But I think in 2 meetings, one realized that was not going to go very far. And we had an interesting conversation with 20th Century Fox and Sony Columbia. So I think in some form or the other, and I think Destiny had it in some form, that I would say all of them in some form passed us. And I don't think we would have then moved and become a brand of our own if we had collaborated with any of those situations. So yeah, outsider is something that you feel on an ongoing basis and it should not necessarily intimidate you. On your question on domain expertise, you know, if you're not drilling oil in the South China Sea, which would definitely require some domain expertise, I think in many aspects, whether you're running a travel industry, a tourism industry, or running hotels, or in some of the things that I'm doing today in education, or the fact that we took up a social enterprise and are taking it to such scale, I think a lot of what you would do is, if you have a curious mind, and if you're very clear you need to constantly be agile and learn, the chances are that you can give yourself 3 months to 6 months. I think my approach has been always building teams around that. I don't think I would ever get into a business unless I was very clear of the colleagues and at the level at which I would be able to bring colleagues and team members. And that's been, I think, one of the best ways for me to go forward. So today, if I'm doing something in education, or in sports, or in the social media, it is really with incredible co-founders. And I think I did that early stage when we did cable. We did it with toothbrushes, we did it with UTV and media company. Find the right mix of people who will complement each other. And I think domain expertise is something that you normally inherit after 6 months. After all, as professionals, we change jobs. You know, some people can remain in the FMCG sector, but a lot of people move from an FMCG sector to a banking sector to XYZ. So you pick it up after about 6 months. But I think clarity of thought, curiosity, being a great listener are important aspects if you want to take that to the next level.